You are ugly, useless, and a waste of money. Just get married and leave this house soon. Dad spat these hurtful words at me when I was just 16 years old. I couldn't resist and ended up marrying a man I had never even seen before. I lived a life devoid of any feelings, completely dull and joyless. Despair washed over me. But life is unpredictable. I never expected a complete turnaround. My name is Grace, and I am 35 years old. I bought myself some Valentine's chocolates. Where's mine? And my husband Logan asked. Sorry, I went to the store thinking I would buy something for you too, but I got so wrapped up in picking out my own chocolates that I forgot. Next time, I'll get him some nice liquor. Yes, that's what I'll do. Now, I live in a home filled with love, but when I was young, I hated being at home. That wasn't the case until my younger sister Ella became aware of her surroundings. I have a sister named Ella who is 2 years younger than me. From the time she was a baby, she had well-defined features, and everyone expected her to grow up to be a beauty. And a few years later, Ella grew up to be even more beautiful than everyone had anticipated, and Mom encouraged her to become a child model. Although being a child model meant just appearing in a few local construction ads or having her profile shown in local event ads, it was enough for our parents to feel immensely proud. They treated her like an accessory, showing her off everywhere they went, completely adoring her. Conversely, their interest in me dwindled rapidly. Perhaps it was because I resembled Dad's grandma with my broad bones, unlike Ella, who had a small face and slim limbs typical of modern kids. Not only did I draw the short straw with my bone structure, but I was also the only one in my otherwise slim family who wasn't thin. We all ate the same food, and even though I refrained from snacking to avoid being different, I was the only one who wasn't slim. Why just me? I often wondered. I can't count the times I wished I had a figure like hers. However, even as a child, I understood that comparing myself to others was futile. I am me. I should focus on my strengths. Though I thought that way as a child, my parents completely denied my existence. Well, she's the first child, so she's like a prototype. She turned out terribly. Once, when my parents were drunk in the living room, I overheard them talking bad about me. Those words, which I happened to overhear, cast a long shadow over my heart for years, making me think, am I a failed prototype? Mom was a beautiful woman who was confident in her appearance and always cared about how she looked, no matter her age. It would have been fine if she had only been particular about herself, but she was also strict with others. She would disdainfully talk about a neighbor who went out to take out the trash early in the morning in pajamas with no makeup, looking down on her. Incidentally, that neighbor was a mother of 5 children, and her husband seemed elite but was rarely home. Instead, an elderly man who seemed to be her father-in-law frequently visited their home, and sometimes we could hear him shouting. In hindsight, she was probably being harassed. Even from a child's perspective, she always seemed to be struggling. What's wrong with being makeup-free and in pajamas while dealing with parenting and countless hardships alone? In fact, it's impressive that she managed to do the housework so well under those circumstances and should be praised for it. I thought Mom was the one who was insensitive and cold-hearted, unable to understand people's situations. It was sad but natural that such a mom didn't find me, with my unattractive looks, cute. When I became old enough to receive an allowance, Ella got $10, and I got nothing. The visible differences became more apparent. For example, Ella got a meal full of meat, while my plate was piled high with the vegetables she hated. By the way, I hated those vegetables too. Dad never said anything about Mom's behavior, and Ella, sensing something was wrong with this household, seemed to enjoy my precarious position. There wasn't a single ally for me in the house. Ella wouldn't get scolded even if she broke something, but I would get harshly reprimanded and often hear, "You're the older sister, aren't you?" This phrase was used as a kind of excuse to make me the bad one. It's common for younger siblings to get hand-me-downs from their older siblings, but in our house, it was only when Ella declared she didn't want them or outgrew them that the clothes would come to me. As a result, I always wore clothes that were too small, with sleeves and hems that didn't reach properly. Having a big boned frame and not being skinny, wearing clothes that were too small was the worst. It made me look even fatter, and of course, my classmates found it hilarious. Even though it was Mom who dressed me in ill-fitting clothes, she would also laugh at me with disdain. At home and outside, I kept hearing that Ella was the cute one, and my originally bright personality gradually darkened. Even when interacting with friends, thoughts like maybe this person thinks I'm ugly too, or maybe they secretly want to be friends with Ella, would cross my mind. Now I know how irrational those thoughts were, but at the time, I kept having such paranoid delusions. With such a negative mindset, it's no wonder I couldn't maintain relationships, and my friends gradually decreased. However, rather than feeling depressed about it, I preferred isolating myself. I was tired of doubting people's feelings while interacting with them. It was more comfortable being alone. During this gloomy school life, just before entering high school, an incident occurred. It turned out my parents hadn't paid my high school enrollment fee. My parents never intended to send me to high school. They wanted to spend money on Ella's dance and acting lessons instead. After some persuasion, I finally got my parents to agree that, "If you pass the cheap public high school entrance exam, we'll let you go," he asked. At the time, Ella's entertainment activities were increasing, and I, burdened with household chores by my parents, studied desperately amidst the chaos and passed the public high school entrance exam as instructed. Thinking everything would be okay now, I naively trusted my parents. Those people were not my parents, but monsters who just gave birth to me. Mom said, "Enrollment fee?" I forgot. "But it's fine, you don't need to go to high school. Even if you study with that face, your life won't be much better." Without any apology, Dad and Ella laughed loudly while clapping at this. Realizing too late that the enrollment fee hadn't been paid, I gave up on high school. Of course, there was the option to work part-time, save money, and enroll a year later, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I felt burnt out. The path I desperately pursued by following my parents' orders was suddenly closed, and I felt like, with a standard education, I still couldn't shake the dark thoughts that no one would ever love me. But that shouldn't have mattered. Why does adolescence make us so negative? My parents said, "At least you don't have to go to school, now you can do all the housework." They said it sarcastically, but I had already resigned myself to such a life. I didn't feel like going to a part-time job, nor did I have the energy to leave home, and looking back, I was probably on the verge of depression. Every day felt like I was a robot, just doing what my parents told me to do. One day, "Hey, tomorrow is your 16th birthday, right?" Suddenly, my dad spoke to me. "What?" "Yeah." Lately, my dad had been ignoring me, so I couldn't help but smile when he mentioned my birthday. My birthday was usually ignored every year, but maybe this year they would celebrate it? Maybe it was because I had been working so hard on the housework? I had a faint hope. Then, "Get married and leave the house soon. An ugly, useless daughter who costs too much money is a burden." What? Dad forced the idea of marriage on me as casually as telling me to go to the supermarket. I was so stunned I couldn't say a word. Without even looking at me. "Get married and leave the house tomorrow." He said something outrageous. "Wait, what do you mean, Dad?" "There's someone we need to get close to for Ella's work." He's the son of someone in the entertainment industry. But why marriage? At a dinner, Grace saw his picture and liked him, so the conversation led to marriage. Seeing Dad so pleased made me feel an unfamiliar sense of disgust. I had never seen a picture of this man, and Dad's smiling talk felt like he was selling his daughter. Anyway, a man who would marry a girl he'd never seen in this day and age, it's impossible. Everything seemed unreal. The guy saw your picture and liked you. It's a miracle that someone likes you, be grateful. Dad finally looked at me with a big smile, leaving me speechless. Liked me? That was impossible. I had always been told I was unattractive. For someone to like that, it must be a very strange person. Maybe he's desperate, or just doesn't care, or maybe he's trying to make me do something terrible. I could only think there was some hidden agenda. When I tried to say I didn't want to. If you complain, I'll throw you out. Dad yelled, and I had no choice but to stay silent. And so, I was forced into marriage. Ella watched and laughed, clapping her hands, enjoying my misery. It was a moment when I cursed my weakness and being born into this family. So, I got married to a man I had never seen before. I was forcibly taken to a new house prepared by his parents, where I met him for the first time. My husband Logan, 10 years older than me, was a very plain man. He wasn't particularly gloomy, but he lacked energy. I'm not beautiful either, so I can't be picky, but he wasn't someone I could ever fall in love with. He also seemed to have a bad relationship with his parents, and his father-in-law Elijah said. We were glad to get rid of him too. He seemed happy that Logan was leaving home because of this marriage. Ah, so we're both the same. Thinking that made me feel empty and sad, like we were both being discarded in this marriage. Thus began my life with Logan, a marriage I never wanted. For the first month, we only exchanged greetings in the morning and before bed. We ate separately, and I avoided seeing him as much as possible. But one day, Logan said something unexpected. I know you don't like me. I'm sure our parents tricked you into this marriage, right? What? It was true, but I was unsure how to respond honestly. Seeing my reaction, Logan understood everything. You don't have to answer. And smiled. But I really did like your picture. That's a lie. There's no way you could like me. Ella is much prettier. No matter what you say, I felt something when I saw you. Marrying you only confirmed it. Maybe it's because we have similar backgrounds. I was drawn to your inner self. Logan's sincere words left me speechless. I couldn't believe it, yet his eyes seemed truthful. Having never experienced love, I was confused by this kind of affection. If you're unhappy, you can file for divorce. I have the papers ready. But if you'd like, why not start as friends? His shy smile made my heart flutter just a bit, a secret I still keep. His suggestion to start as friends rather than as a married couple, showing kindness and understanding, moved me. We began eating meals together. We didn't have any formal agreement, and even after seeing Logan's kindness, it took time to become comfortable with him. Slowly, we started having conversations about the weather and our preferences, breaking down the invisible wall between us. We found that we both loved books and had many common interests. As he had mentioned, we were both treated as outcasts by our parents, sharing similar values and thoughts, making our time together more comfortable than with anyone else. As we lived together for a year, then too, Logan proposed to me, and we truly became a married couple in our hearts. Does it sound strange to get proposed to when you're already married? Well, we were always an odd pair. We skipped dating and the initial proposal, but we took our time to rebuild those steps together. Even after 10 years, our parents never visited us, but we lived a peaceful life and had a child. Just when I thought my life wasn't so bad, the news reported that a famous celebrity was arrested. Apparently, another celebrity involved in the crime could also be implicated, causing a media frenzy. It seemed like a world apart from ours until I heard Ella's name among the suspects. Though she held the title of actress, she had no significant work, barely participating in showbiz, but she was still affiliated with an agency and occasionally worked as an extra. Despite her lack of fame as an actress, she gained notoriety as a criminal. Photos showed her entering a club with a famous actress and a group of men. While she managed to avoid charges, it was clear to everyone that she was involved. The person who leaked the photos was a classmate who worked at the club and disliked Ella. This classmate took photos secretly when Ella visited the club. "She's up to something shady," and shared them. Someone sold it to a magazine, and that's how this whole mess started. Well, I thought it had nothing to do with me anymore, but suddenly my parents showed up at my house. As soon as I opened the door, "Help me, Grace!" She clung to me with tears in her eyes. Dad was desperately supporting her. Mom, who used to be so beautiful, looked sickly thin, her hair dirty and thinning with gray strands. "What are you doing here?" "I don't remember being asked for help." "You're the only one we can rely on now." "Huh?" Seeing my confused expression, "Let me explain," Dad said. Apparently, Ella had been arrested recently. Since she was a no-name actress, it hadn't made the news, so I didn't know. Ella's classmates had somehow gotten the information, even though I, her sister, hadn't. Rumors had spread, and now everyone in the neighborhood knew about Ella's crimes. As a result, my parents' home had been subjected to graffiti, stones being thrown, and silent phone calls. "We can't live in that place anymore. Why did Ella do such a thing? I should never have had her. You're my only daughter." She broke down in tears, hugging me tightly. "Please, we can't live in that house anymore. Let's live together here and have a happy life together." What are they even talking about? I quietly grabbed Mom's shoulders and pushed her away. "Grace, I don't remember ever having a happy life with you too." "What are you saying? We were a close family." "That's right, Grace." Their confused expressions showed. They didn't want to upset me. "If we were a close family, I wouldn't have ended up in this marriage. You sold me out for Ella. But you're still married, aren't you?" "It turned out fine." Dad's smirk made me snap, and I shoved him. "Don't joke around. What was fine about it? It just so happened that Logan is a good person, but if he were a bad person, my life would have been hell. What do you think people's lives are? A family built on someone else's sacrifice is bound to fall apart." I shouted, my voice trembling with anger. Tears welled up unexpectedly. Logan, who had been standing next to me, gently took my hand. "Forgiving people is important, Grace." Dad said this with a sleazy smile, and I, irritated, finally said what I'd been holding back. "Then why don't you both live with your respective lovers? Forgiving is important, right? Just forgive each other's mistakes." The two of them froze. Their faces pale as they looked at each other. "What? Did you think I didn't know? Both of you were cheating, right? You didn't realize you were betraying each other?" Yes, my parents had both had affairs. They thought no one knew, but Ella and I were aware. Not only the parent-child relationship, but also their marriage was broken. Where is this happy family they talk about? "You betrayed me?" Mom screamed. "And you did too," Dad shouted back. I watched this scene with a cold gaze. Forgiving is important, right? Stop fighting and forgive each other. I sneered, and they fell silent. I don't want to be involved with you anymore. Don't contact me again. I don't care about the harassment or whatever. Fall into hell for all I care. I'm not going to be tied down by you anymore. I hurled the years of pent-up anger at them, using harsh words. The two of them, realizing they couldn't trust each other, desperately begged me to forgive them. How pathetic. Of course, I refused their plea. If you continue to involve yourself with me, I will take appropriate action, I declared. I said it in the heat of the moment, but I didn't really think about what action to take. I couldn't rely on the police, but being tough is key in these situations. Whether my words had any effect, I don't know, but they seemed to understand and sank to their knees on the sidewalk. Let's go, Logan said, urging me to go back inside the house. I obediently took Logan's hand and went back inside. After a while, I heard them crying outside, calling my name, but I never opened the door. After that, about a month later, I got a call saying my parents' home had burned down under suspicious circumstances. I don't know if it was related to the Ella incident or not, and the culprit hasn't been caught, but it was a house that had been vandalized a lot, so it was definitely targeted. My parents, despite the affair being revealed, did not choose to divorce, but my mom suffered burns on her proud face. It wasn't severe, but the scars were somewhat keloid-like. And whether it was because of that or for some other reason, my dad left the house one day without saying anything. He abandoned her. Mom seemed to think it was because she wasn't beautiful anymore, and the once outgoing woman barely left the house anymore. Originally, they were both cheating on each other, so it wasn't just about appearances. They were probably just tired of being together. Only God knows the truth. But I bet I know more about my dad than my mom, who didn't notice his infidelity. Dad, too, had been borrowing money from financiers to promote Ella and had been flattering important people, losing his job and accumulating a lot of debt because of Ella. Ella, after serving about a year and a half in prison, started appearing in shady videos, likely because she had no money. I've heard rumors that she's mentally unstable, but that's no longer my concern. Karma really does come around, I thought, as I watched their downfall from afar. Meanwhile, I am currently blessed with 4 children and leading a hectic life. When my youngest was born, they were twins, which was really tough. Since both Logan and I have low education, we were worried about whether we could afford to raise 4 children. But we worked hard to get qualifications, and now I'm a medical clerk, and Logan is a manager at a merit-based call center that doesn't care about education or nationality. It was tough studying while raising kids and being pregnant. Logan was busy with job hunting but supported me a lot, and I'm really grateful for that. He's cooperative with both childcare and housework. Even though our marriage started off strange, I'm proud to be married to him. In that sense, maybe I should be grateful to those two. He is not only a devoted father but also still treats me like a lover. It's a bit embarrassing, but even at our age, we still go on dates sometimes. To the movies or a cafe, it's like a student date, but it's important time for us who got married without dating much. I hope we can continue to cherish each other and our family. I hope tomorrow will be another happy day. Thinking this way, I cherish each day. My brother Jack is getting married soon, but his fiancée, Catherine, has asked me not to attend. I really want to go, but if it would make Jack unhappy, maybe I should just listen to her. When I was 25 and Jack was 15, our parents passed away. There was talk of putting Jack in foster care, but we had our parents' inheritance. And more than anything, we didn't want to be separated from the only family we had left, so I decided to take care of him. We've had our ups and downs, especially during Jack's rebellious phase, but we've always supported each other and I think our relationship is pretty strong. I've tried not to touch the inheritance much, living off my salary instead. It's been tough at times, but he would always say, "I'd rather be poor but with Sally," which encouraged me to try and provide a better life for us by dedicating myself to work for the past 10 years. Because of this, I've remained single, but I was happy that Jack found a wonderful woman and was getting married. Finally, Jack's getting married. I'm looking forward to the wedding. I got married before you. But really, thank you for everything. If you hadn't been there to take care of me, Sally, you could have married much earlier. I'm fine with it. I like being alone and I enjoy my work. But don't you want to meet someone? Meet someone. I guess I need to lose weight first. Seriously, please lose weight. Not because of your figure, but I'm worried about your health. You're eating instant food at night, aren't you? It's a hassle to cook for just myself after work. Still, I wish you'd live a healthier life. Jack's words were a stark reminder of how unhealthy my lifestyle had become. Like our mother, I had good skin, but I spent most of my days sitting for work. With my job going fully remote, I barely went outside, leading to me steadily gaining weight. I did join a gym in the neighborhood, but I ended up only paying the membership without actually using it. Hearing Jack's words made me seriously start thinking about getting on a diet. A few days later, I received a wedding invitation from Jack and his wife, and the following day, a message from Catherine arrived. Sally, it's been a while. Did you receive the wedding invitation we sent? Catherine, long time no see. I got it yesterday and was about to reply. Thanks for inviting me to your wedding. About that, could you please not attend our wedding? What do you mean? I don't want you to attend. Did I do something wrong? I was shocked not only by Catherine's blunt approach, but also by her request for me to not attend the wedding, to which I responded with a lifeless voice. Well, you're overweight, and honestly, do you even care about your appearance as a woman? It's weird that you're not married at your age. So you don't want me at Jack's wedding because I'm overweight and single? It's better for you not to come, for your own sake. I mean, I'm pretty good looking, right? My parents and siblings are all stylish, some are models or work in beauty. You'd stick out. Jack will wonder why I'm not there. If I don't go, Jack's family seat will be empty. Just make up something suitable. You're his sister, you know what to say to avoid suspicion, right? As his sister, they expected me to come up with a believable lie for Jack. I'm sorry, but I can't marry you right now. I've started dieting recently. More than anything, I want to see my only brother's wedding through, for our parents in heaven. I expressed my heartfelt wish to Catherine, despite her remarks. However, in response to my words, Catherine dropped all the emojis she had been using and expressed her dissatisfaction. The wedding is about me, the bride. My wishes should come first. I don't want my wedding ruined by an obese, single woman. And don't bring up anything about parents in heaven on my special day. Do you plan to be selfish at a celebration by mentioning those who have passed away? I was speechless at her harsh words and couldn't reply for several minutes. Then, perhaps satisfied with my silence, Catherine mockingly added, I don't mind keeping up family ties, so do send a gift for our happiness. Wouldn't that be something even your parents in heaven would appreciate? Understood. Then I'll return this invitation marked as not attending. I wanted to end the conversation with Catherine as quickly as possible, not wishing to speak with her further. As far as I remember, I've done nothing to offend Catherine. We only met during family meetings, and beyond that, I've only exchanged Christmas cards with Catherine's family, never directly interacting with her. So, it was a shock to receive a message from her, especially one indicating she thought so poorly of me. I considered telling Jack, but hesitated since their marriage was already official a few months back. I wondered if staying silent was better, to avoid causing trouble in their newlywed life. Afterward, I sent Jack a message along with the returned invitation, apologizing and stating I couldn't attend the wedding.
Why? What happened?
I have an unavoidable meeting that day.
That's a lie, right? The company would let you off for a family wedding.
Well, it's actually a client who specifically requested me. They're quite difficult, and I can't just ask to reschedule.
Seriously? I'll see if we can change the wedding date.
I'm busy for a while, and it's Catherine's big day. You don't need to go to such lengths for me. Jack seemed about to argue, but I ended the conversation, citing work commitments. Despite my reluctance to miss the event, being pressured to abstain made me want to avoid giving Jack any suggestions that might make me waver, especially not wanting to end up blaming Catherine. The next day, Catherine messaged me again.
Sally, can you tell Jack you decided not to attend on your own?
Huh? I already told Jack I wouldn't be attending.
I heard. But tell him you're not attending because you're single and it would be bad luck.
I already said it was because of work. I can't just change my story now.
Your transparent lie about work is why I'm being blamed by Jack. It's your lack of consideration that's left you single at your age. I had a colleague just like you at my previous job, unhelpful, gloomy, and just a nuisance. When I saw you, you reminded me of her, exactly. Catherine, how dare you say such things to my sister? And to my only family.
What?
What are you talking about all of a sudden? It's me, Catherine. Jack. I'm at her place right now.
Sally, stop with the pitiful act.
It's just sad that someone as overweight and unattractive as you is also delusional. The reason Sally is single is because of me. She's been working nonstop to take care of me since our parents died.
In front of me, Jack furiously typed his response to her. He had another reason for visiting. That morning, he had contacted me, saying he took the day off to speak with me urgently, despite my busy schedule. I agreed and invited him over, but the story he shared left me dumbfounded and disgusted by Catherine's actions. Yesterday, I talked to Catherine. She said you're not attending the wedding because she told you things, right?
What? What do you mean? Catherine said that?
I heard everything from her yesterday. I'm really sorry for making you feel bad. It's all my fault. Jack then recounted his conversation with her from the previous day.
Sally won't be attending the wedding. She says she's too busy with work, but can't you make it somehow? If she's busy, it can't be helped. Sally has her own life, and she's single, so she needs to focus on her work. It's not unheard of to take a day off for a sibling's wedding.
I'm the one who told her to refrain from attending.
What?
Well, it's unfortunate, but let's face it, Sally is overweight and not exactly a beauty, right? My family and friends are all stunning, so she'd just feel miserable among us.
Catherine, what exactly did you say to Sally to make her decide not to attend?
At that point, even Catherine seemed to realize that he was furious. I only said that my friends and family, who are former models or work in beauty, might make you feel out of place. I thought it would be better for both of us if you didn't attend because it might make you uncomfortable.
That's absurd. Sally is my only family. Now that you're married to me, I am your family, Jack. I can't be confident in a future with someone who disregards my family like that.
Jack said this before storming out of the house. He spent the night at a business hotel, thinking things over, which led him to reach out to me because he couldn't fully believe what she had said. After calming down, I too quickly realized the truth, but I was initially so shocked by Catherine's words that I stubbornly thought it best to stay quiet. I'm embarrassed I didn't have complete faith in Jack. Sally, I'm really sorry. I knew Catherine was proud of her looks, but I never imagined she could be this unreasonable. I'm going to divorce her. Even if it means I have to pay compensation, I can't spend my life with someone who disrespects you, my family, like this. Jack apologized to me after sending his response to Catherine.
Are you sure? She's your wife. Didn't you love her?
Catherine's true nature began to show after we got married. She quit her job without discussing it with me. Rated women we passed on the street or saw on TV, and I just felt something was off. I guess she was always like this, but I failed to see it. Jack admitted with regret. Then his smartphone rang. He signaled me and answered on speakerphone.
Jack, are you at Sally's?
Yes. We were just talking about divorcing you, Catherine.
What? I'm your family now that we're married.
Sally is my family too. After we divorce, Catherine will be a stranger, but Sally will always be my family.
But you should prioritize me, right?
If Sally had done something wrong, I would have sided with you. But you mocked not only her appearance, but also her life dedicated to me.
What if she demands money from you later because she's still single?
How much do you think we spent on the wedding for your sake?
What?
Sally helped pay for the wedding because I wanted to make it perfect for you. You knew that, right?
That's a different matter.
How can you say it's different after demanding she not attend even though she helped financially? I'll be discussing this with your parents.
Fine. My dad and mom will definitely side with me. Dad will hire a lawyer to claim compensation from you guys. And I'll never agree to a divorce.
Catherine spat out these words before hanging up abruptly. Tomorrow, we are meeting with Catherine, her parents, and Jack to discuss the divorce. I'll be there too. The divorce between Jack and Catherine was settled, with Catherine bearing all the cancellation fees for the venue. Though we hadn't planned on claiming any compensation, Catherine's parents insisted, so a lawyer drafted the documents, and we received a small amount. Catherine also had to cover the legal fees. It was a relief. At the meeting, we presented printouts of the messages Catherine had sent.
Catherine, what is this? How dare you prepare something like this? It's despicable. The lowest.
Catherine told her parents that she was constantly harassed by Sally, and Jack did nothing to help, even siding with Sally. She had lied to her parents, who were furious upon learning the truth.
These messages are fabricated. Just to trap me.
Catherine, you've sent similar messages to your friends, right? Telling them not to come to the wedding because Jack's sister is unattractive. We've got messages from your friends. Jack showed the printouts of the message exchanges between Catherine and her friend. Before Catherine could retaliate, he also played a recording of a conversation between Catherine and Jack at my house. Upon receiving all the evidence we presented, Catherine's parents immediately offered a deep apology.
We're truly sorry. We agree to the divorce and will make Catherine pay for the cancellation fees.
We had great respect for Sally and Jack's journey. We were proud our daughter married such a wonderful man, but never imagined she would do something so foolish.
Why won't my parents support me?
Nobody would side with you after seeing this.
Catherine, do you understand what you've done? Apologize now.
I'm sorry. Contrary to her expectations, Catherine protested in tears to her parents' reaction, but her father dismissed her objections, and her mother urged her to apologize. Catherine did apologize, but it was in a manner reminiscent of a child begrudgingly saying sorry after being scolded, leaving everyone present feeling considerable discomfort towards her. The next day, the divorce between Jack and Catherine was finalized. Jack had a lawyer acquaintance prepare the necessary documents. Of course, the cancellation was communicated to the venue, and Catherine's parents covered the cancellation fees. It seems Catherine will have to work and pay them back. Having unilaterally decided to become a stay-at-home wife, she will now have to start job hunting. It appears her previous job was obtained through her parents' connections, so finding a new position on her own merits might prove difficult. Jack and Catherine met through college friends, and Catherine had been spreading baseless rumors, attempting to undermine Jack's reputation. She had been telling various people to request my absence from the wedding, resulting in backlash from those aware of the truth. I'm Mary, in my 30s, the only daughter of an old family. My husband, Joe, is also in his 30s, the middle child with an older sister and a younger sister. My sister-in-law, Betty, a stay-at-home mom of 3, whose husband Mike serves in the Navy and is often away for long periods. My other sister-in-law, Emma, is a college student. She lives in a part of my mother-in-law Kate's house, with the agreement that she'll move out after graduation. 3 years ago, when Joe and I got married, we built a duplex on land I inherited from my grandfather. Kate lives on the first floor, and Joe and I live on the second. Joe, being the eldest son, even if he's the second child, indeed has some responsibility towards Kate's care in her old age. I was a bit bothered by the idea of it being an obligation, but wanting to marry Joe no matter what, we discussed with Mike and agreed to design the house so both families could live separately. The house is in Joe's and my name, and Kate agreed to bear all her living costs. Only $20,000 was paid initially, and nothing after that. Joe and I have been paying off the mortgage. It was nowhere near enough, and we thought it was supposed to be in installments, but it was just a one-time payment. With just that $20,000, Kate acted as if she owned the entire first floor. Already then, promises were not kept, but what happened next was even more unacceptable. It all started when Betty was hospitalized. When Betty fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized long-term, Kate told me, "I'll take care of Betty's 3 kids here. You look after them until she gets discharged." Betty's children were quite young, with the eldest in 2nd grade, the second child 5 years old, and the youngest 1.5 years old.
"Wait, please. I have a job too."
I resisted.
"They're at school or the child care center during the day, so it's fine. Moms work and raise kids all the time. Stop making excuses and just take care of them," Kate scoffed.
So, Joe and I talked it over and decided to keep the kids mainly in Kate's part of the house while Betty was hospitalized. But since Kate would be at the hospital with Betty, busy and unable to look after the kids, we'd handle it from after school until bedtime, including picking them up from the child care center. This change affected our usual work routines, and at first, it was quite chaotic for Joe and me, along with the kids. The children were a bit unsettled with their mom in the hospital and their dad away for a long time, but Joe and I were moved by their efforts to cope. However, on the morning of Betty's discharge, Kate called me to the first floor to shock me with a declaration to continue babysitting. I was astonished.
"But it was supposed to be just until she was discharged,"
I argued, but Kate calmly replied,
"She's just been discharged and still not well. She can't possibly take care of the kids."
Hearing this, I couldn't be harsh to Betty, who was still recovering, and ended up agreeing to extend their stay. As time went on, and 6 months later, when Mike was about to return, once again, Kate called me down to the first floor, saying,
"With Mike coming back, it's too cramped here just on the first floor. We need to move the kids or Emma upstairs,"
making an unreasonable request.
"Why not go back to your own home now that Mike is returning?" I asked directly. Suddenly, Betty began coughing, looking unwell.
"It's impossible. I'm still not feeling well. I can't possibly do any housework."
"Mary, I never thought you were so cold-hearted. Don't you want to help your family when they're suffering and sick? I'm not even asking for much,"
she yelled. And that's when I decided it was time to draw a clear line. I tried to choose my words carefully, but Kate exploded, yelling,
"Get out of this house right now."
So, I decided to consult my parents.
"You must not give in. They might just take over,"
my mother worriedly said. And after hanging up, reassured that my stance wasn't narrow-minded, I felt a bit relieved. And apologized to me. Tom, who hadn't been part of this conversation, seemed to side with Kate, and instead of ignoring me, he persistently said, "What a cold woman. As long as you're fine, right? I wish you'd just leave already." My father decided to get a lawyer he knew to prepare properly before any discussions, and while the documents were being prepared, another issue arose. In the middle of the night, Emma came upstairs with her pillow. "The kids crying at night is too loud. I can't sleep downstairs. Can you move my bed upstairs tomorrow? I'll make do with the guest bed tonight," she said, yawning. A surprised Joe said, "What are you talking about? There's no room for Emma here. Go back to your own room quietly. Besides, Betty is recovering, so Emma should help with the kids." To which Emma frowned and replied, What are you talking about? Sisters don't babysit these days. I'm a student. I'm busy with my studies. It's impossible. Nowadays, helping with childcare is the daughter-in-law's job," she claimed. "That's not true. If that's the case, Emma will be told the same when she gets married," Joe retorted, slightly irritated, to which Emma further replied, "I won't get married, so it's fine. Dad says it's better if I stay at home anyway." "It's being filial," she coolly answered. "Weren't you supposed to move out after graduating from college?" We're not in a bubble economy. How much do you think I can earn with my starting salary? Living alone is utterly impossible. I'll look for a job close to this house, and unless my favorite celebrity marries me, there's no way I'm considering marriage in real life." Emma argued her point. When I interjected that this was not the agreement. "Mary, you're being rather high and mighty. Didn't Dad contribute money to build this place too? Even if the deed is in Joe and your names, it belongs to Dad too. This is my family home. Why should I be driven out of my own home?" Emma countered. Joe explained that the in-laws had only contributed $20,000, and that half the building and all the land were in my name, but Emma retorted, "So what? Are you saying to contribute more money? Just because it's only $20,000 doesn't change the fact that they contributed. Don't you know about residency rights? I'm definitely not leaving," and stormed down to the first floor with a bang. Sounds of shouting could be heard from below, likely Emma venting to Kate. Having Joe always agree with my views was a saving grace. A few days of standoff continued, but then my parents informed us that everything was ready for a discussion. "Joe is a good person, but his family is too unreasonable. While public opinion might concern you, divorcing as a way to separate might be an option.
You could buy out Joe's half of the house and settle things amicably. I'll pay for it,
my dad suggested, leaving me surprised as I hadn't considered divorce. However, my mom agreed, saying,
marriage isn't just about the two people involved. Discuss it thoroughly and decide.
After aligning our intentions, it was decided that Kate, Betty, my parents, Joe, and I, a total of 7 people, would discuss the matter. Emma was tasked with babysitting Betty's children in Kate's part of the house and didn't join the discussion. Conveniently, it turned out that Betty's husband, Mike, would be returning home that day and would join the discussion. After everyone except Mike had gathered, Tom was the first to speak. I apologize for dragging Mary's parents into this mess. With Betty being ill, we've been emotionally fragile and ended up causing trouble. I'm sorry for Kate's rudeness and my daughter's disrespectful behavior towards Mary. Tom apologized, which took me by surprise. But just when I began to see Tom in a new light, he ultimately pushed his own agenda. However, despite our poor choice of words, considering Betty's future support, living together in this house seems best. We understand the rights to the house and land, but as Mary is a family member, we hope for her flexibility. Tom was interrupted by my dad. This land has been passed down to Mary through generations. Even though we built a duplex here, Mary holds the rights, not you. We can't allow you to decide on a semi-permanent cohabitation without Mary's consent. We understand Betty's situation, but that's for you as a couple to resolve, my dad said, to which Kate retorted, cold-hearted family. A heartless daughter raised by heartless parents. Of course, this backfired. If that's how you feel, we won't hesitate to ask you to leave Mary's house immediately, my dad replied. Mike, arriving late, thanked us for taking care of his wife, especially praising Kate for her support during Betty's hospitalization. Putting Kate, it's okay. Betty is my daughter. Families should help each other, unlike these people. They just told me to leave the house. But we've paid some money too, so they can't just kick us out. We have residency rights. Kate started. Claiming residency rights over $20,000? I'm speechless. What now? As my dad and Kate were about to argue, Joe suddenly apologized deeply. Ben, Jane, I'm so sorry for the trouble my family has caused, insisting on our rights after only paying $20,000 and living here with so many of us. And even making brazen requests despite Betty's illness. It's too much to ask to continue living here, Joe told my parents. I decided to address the financial issues I had avoided until now, to assert agreement with Joe. I was prepared for living with Kate and caring for her in her old age when I decided to marry. However, I regret that only $20,000 was contributed towards the living space on the first floor. The situation with Betty's family living here semi-permanently and Emma's post-graduation independence, among other unilateral decisions, is too much. Isn't it absurd to ask for the second floor because the first is too cramped? I said, and Mike, finally catching on, spoke up. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. Being away often, I couldn't look after my wife and kids, leading to this situation. I wasn't aware of the land ownership or the small contribution made, or the brazen requests made even though it was for Betty's sake. My parents left some land in the countryside, which I plan to sell to buy a house nearby. Kate can live there with Betty and the kids, and I'll provide for them. I appreciate your past kindness and will look for a suitable property immediately, Mike said. He had always wanted to live with Kate and was considering how to finance it since his parents had passed away. But Kate insisted on staying here, demanding, "You're breaking promises."
As the eldest son, it's only natural for you to care.
At that, my dad exploded.
Enough! We'll consult a lawyer. We'll return the $20,000 and cover the moving costs. We'll draft a formal document specifying a deadline for moving out. We didn't want to have to force you out like this, but it seems we have no choice. Using a lawyer is too much. We're family. Shouldn't we settle this amicably? Kate persisted.
We can't trust you.
Not trusting us is quite rude. You were the ones who wanted to get married and said living together as a multi-generational family was fine. I would have been okay with calling off the engagement. So greedy, both mother and daughter-in-law of the eldest son.
Kate continued to rant, but Joe had enough.
Stop making a scene. I've told you, it's come to needing a lawyer because you're being unreasonable. Please, no more trouble. What are we, as adults, doing?
Eventually, Kate moved out to live in the property Mike purchased. Originally, the plan was for Kate to live on the first floor of the duplex and be taken care of in her old age, but their brazenness led to them being kicked out. Feeling somewhat guilty about it, I mentioned to Joe that maybe we could invite Kate back once Betty's health improved and she no longer needed to live with us. Joe replied,
Mary, you're too kind. Haven't you learned your lesson? They'll just take advantage again, and I'm totally against bringing her back.
Joe went as far as to sever ties with Kate and Betty, even proceeding with disinheritance. I was shocked by Joe's thoroughness, realizing he must have been truly desperate about his family. It pains me a bit that Joe had to choose estrangement, but given their unreasonable behavior, it might have been inevitable in any scenario. Emma was forced to live alone as no room was prepared for her in Betty's new home. When Emma tried to insist on staying, claiming this was her family home and she had residency rights, I told her, "This isn't your family home anymore," leading her to storm out in anger. Later, Tom rented an old apartment for Emma, but she refused to move in, saying,
I can't live in such an old apartment. That's impossible.
Upset by her ingratitude, Tom stopped paying her tuition. Joe says we should not involve ourselves anymore since he's cut ties, so I don't know what's happened to her since, but I imagine Emma is living her life as willfully as ever.